There is something shifting beneath the surface of modern desire, something men instinctively fear acknowledging, because once you see it, you can never unsee it. A quiet distortion has crept into the way women respond to men, a silent rewriting of attraction that most men are too domesticated to perceive. And the question that circles your mind, even if you never say it, is simple. What do women truly want when no one is watching? Tonight, we tear the veil. Tonight, you hear the truth she will never confess. Are you prepared to hear it without breaking? What if what she calls respect is merely a mask for the instinct she refuses to admit? What if your kindness suffocates the very desire you are trying to awaken? And what if the thing she truly wants from you is the one thing society trained you to suppress? Most men live trapped inside a behavioral paradox. They keep trying to earn desire through morality, virtue, correctness, and emotional submission. But a woman's instinct is not calibrated by these concepts. This is the part that stings the male ego, the part that Jung would call the wound beneath the persona. Men try to seduce women through the polite mask they were rewarded for in childhood, not through the masculine axis that actually commands respect. And so they become predictable, softened, emotionally compliant, harmless. They confuse goodness with magnetism, and in that confusion they collapse. But attraction is not born in the territory of neutrality. It requires contrast. It needs a center of gravity. It responds to a masculine presence that knows where it stands, even when she doesn't. Nietzsche once wrote that the world belongs to the man who dares to command himself. Women feel this truth before they understand it. They are drawn not to the man who bends to maintain harmony, but to the man who refuses to betray his own axis. This is where most men die psychologically, not from rejection, but from the belief that affection is earned through self-erasure. They fear saying no. They fear creating tension. They fear disappointing her. They fear losing her, because they have already lost themselves. The internal collapse begins subtly. A man removes his edges to avoid conflict. He hides his standards to avoid seeming harsh. He edits himself to maintain peace, and with every small concession, he kills a part of the polarity that once made him magnetic. Women never say this openly, but they feel it viscerally. A man without boundaries becomes indistinguishable from a shadow. The tragic irony is that he believes he is being loving, while she feels nothing. Not disgust, not anger, not romance, nothing. Because nothing is the emotional footprint of the agreeable, the predictable, the man who never interrupts her comfort. Schopenhauer once wrote that desire is born from resistance, not harmony. When a man erases resistance, he erases the condition for desire itself. He thinks his generosity makes him special. She interprets it as passivity. He believes he is protecting the relationship. She sees a man who cannot protect himself. And when a woman senses that a man cannot protect himself, attraction dissolves. She likes him. She may even appreciate him, but she does not desire him, and nothing devastates a man's psyche more than being liked by a woman he wants and not desired by her. This is where the real collapse begins. This is where the mirror turns dark. Men have been trained, socially and emotionally, to seek feminine approval at all costs. They shape their tone, their behavior, their timing, their responses, everything to remain safe. But this safety is not masculine stability. It is psychological submission. Women subconsciously read this as emotional instability disguised as politeness. Because a man who cannot hold himself cannot hold her. Evolutionary psychology is brutally clear on this point. In every culture studied, women consistently rank 3 male traits above kindness: self-confidence, direction, and grounded dominance. Not tyranny, not rage, not blind force, but presence. A presence that says, I know who I am. Your emotions may move, but I do not. This is the axis of masculine desire. It is the quiet gravity around which the feminine instinct orbits. Without this axis, she feels unheld, unmet, unclaimed by the polarity she secretly seeks. And she will never admit this verbally, because doing so would expose the immoral truth. A woman desires a man who does not fear losing her, not because he is indifferent, not because he is cold, but because he is sovereign. A man who stands alone, fully formed. Men collapse when they chase women as if women were rare. They inflate her value before learning who she is. They treat a pretty face as a divine event. They offer attention that has not been earned. They surrender their emotional center in exchange for crumbs of validation. And every time they do this, they unconsciously communicate one thing: I do not believe I am valuable. But a woman does not desire a man who undervalues himself. She desires the man who filters, who chooses, who observes, who does not fall simply because she is beautiful. Beauty alone is not enough to impress a man who knows his worth. This is the polarity she craves and fears simultaneously. A man who is not conquered by aesthetics. A man who can look past the glow of her femininity and still ask, does she qualify for my world? Not out of arrogance, but out of internal structure. This is what Cialdini called the psychology of scarcity. What is selective becomes valuable. What is abundant becomes cheap. Men have inverted this rule. They act as though women are scarce and their own attention is abundant. But the man who reverses this dynamic instantly rises in her perception. He becomes the exception, the axis, the one she must pursue. Now we enter the darker veil, the point where most men collapse without noticing. A woman begins to test him, not out of malice, not out of narcissism, but out of instinct. She needs to know if the man beside her can withstand the emotional gravity she emits. Every woman, consciously or not, performs this test. It is her ancient method of determining masculine stability. Does he break if she raises her tone? Does he soften when she withdraws affection? Does he lose his center when she becomes emotional? Does he crumble when she challenges his position? A man's reaction determines everything, because nothing repels a woman faster than a man who collapses in the face of her emotional storm. A woman's vulnerability does not require a man who dissolves into it. It requires a man who can hold the weight without losing his own spine. This is where Jung's archetypes become brutally real. The male archetype she longs for is not the nice man. It is the sovereign, the man whose presence creates order inside her emotional chaos. Science is merciless here. Studies from the University of Michigan show that male emotional stability dramatically increases female attraction, especially during emotional tension. Women do not desire emotional fusion. They desire emotional containment. A man who says, I hear you, I feel you, but I remain whole. This is the immoral truth she will never say out loud. She wants a man who does not disappear into her emotions. Most men respond to feminine vulnerability with self-erasure. They think they are being supportive, when in reality, they are losing the very essence that makes them attractive. They begin to agree with everything to avoid conflict. They ignore boundaries to not seem harsh. They turn into emotional cushions instead of emotional pillars. And while they do this in the name of love, the feminine instinct reads it as weakness. Because compassion without boundaries is not love, it is self-abandonment. Women intuitively know this. They know when a man shifts from grounded presence to emotional servitude. They feel it in the tone of his voice, in the softness of his spine, in the hesitation of his eyes. And once she senses that he will betray his values to maintain the relationship, respect evaporates. Desire follows shortly after. Schopenhauer said that respect is the foundation of all desire. Without it, attraction collapses no matter how loving the man is. The selective man, the grounded man, the man who stands in his truth, even when it creates tension, is the man a woman remembers. Not because he is aggressive, not because he dominates her, but because he dominates himself. Self-command is the rarest male virtue. Most men seek to command others, but Nietzsche warned that only the man who has conquered himself can lead another. Women feel this truth instinctively. A man who cannot regulate his emotions cannot regulate the relationship. A man who is swayed by drama becomes part of it. A man who reacts instead of observing becomes predictable. And predictability is the death of attraction. The feminine instinct does not desire an emotional mirror. It desires a psychological anchor. This is the immoral center of female desire. She wants the man who remains unshaken, not unreachable but unbroken, a man who can withstand her storms without losing the weather inside himself. This is the emotional polarity that governs feminine attraction across cultures, eras, and psychological frameworks. A woman may deny it with words. Her body will never deny it with desire. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that knowledge alone does not save him. He understands the dynamics. He studies desire, he observes patterns, he recognizes the instincts at play. Yet when the moment of truth arrives, when a woman tests his emotional spine, when tension rises, when the polarity shifts, he collapses into the same reactions that have humiliated men for centuries. This is the fracture point, the exact threshold between the man he is and the man he could have been. For years he believed that emotional fusion was love. He believed that mirroring her pain proved maturity. He believed that unconditional softness guaranteed connection. But in truth, his softness became erosion. His empathy became surrender. His affection became dependency. Women never desire the man who dissolves into them. They desire the man who remains whole in the storm. This is not cruelty. This is polarity. This is psychological law. A woman's emotional world is vast, dynamic, shifting, filled with currents she herself cannot always interpret. Jung called this the mystery of the anima, fluid, intuitive, cyclical, unbounded. In that storm, she does not need a man who becomes water with her. She needs a man who remains the shore, not rigid, not cold, but anchored. The tragic irony is that most men fail this test, not out of weakness, but out of love. They try so hard to protect her that they stop protecting themselves. They think they are choosing connection, but they are abandoning the very presence that creates connection. And women feel this betrayal instantly. When a man loses himself to soften for her, she loses the instinct to open for him. Men forget that desire is not born from emotional merging. It is born from polarity, from distance, from tension, from the contrast between two essences that are complete on their own. A woman cannot surrender to a man who surrenders to her first. She cannot admire a man whose identity collapses the moment she becomes emotional. She cannot trust a man whose values tremble in the shadow of her reactions. She cannot desire a man who fears losing her more than he fears losing himself. In the feminine instinct, respect precedes love, and desire precedes respect. A man who cannot hold his own mind cannot hold her heart. This is the immoral truth she will never articulate. She desires the man she cannot break, not the man she controls. Not the man who bends, not the man who tries to become whatever she wants. She wants the man who remains sovereign, even when she is not. This is not domination. This is emotional leadership, the ability to stay rooted while everything else moves. A woman's vulnerability is not an invitation to collapse. It is an invitation to rise. When she cries, she wants to know that your presence is strong enough to withstand the weight. When she doubts, she wants to feel your certainty. When she spins, she wants to anchor to your stillness. When she tests, she wants to discover the borders of your integrity, because without borders there is no respect. Without respect, there is no desire. Without desire, there is no polarity. Without polarity, there is nothing. A man becomes powerful not when he controls others, but when he controls his own emotional axis. This axis is not built through theory. It is forged through self-confrontation. A man must look at himself with the same intensity he demands from the world. He must see the parts of him that seek approval, the parts that fear abandonment, the parts that soften out of insecurity, not compassion, the parts that chase women because he cannot stand still in his own presence. A man who has not confronted himself will always collapse for a woman. This is why Nietzsche insisted on the necessity of self-conquest. The man who has not tamed his own chaos will drown in hers. And the feminine instinct knows this. It can sense it. It feels whether a man is internally sovereign or merely performing confidence. Nothing awakens desire more than a man who governs himself. Nothing repels it more than a man who pretends to. This is why emotional stoicism is not enough. Acting calm is irrelevant. Pretending to be strong is transparent. A woman does not react to performance. She reacts to structure. She feels the difference. She always feels the difference. Now we approach the final convergence of all truths. A woman does not desire a man she can control. She desires a man she chooses, and a man is only chosen when he is not for sale, not for affection, not for validation, not for approval, not for beauty, not for loneliness, not for the temporary relief of being wanted. Men lose themselves because they want to be loved, but the man who needs love to feel like a man will always be broken by the woman he loves. The masculine becomes whole the moment he no longer negotiates his identity. A man with boundaries radiates value. A man with direction radiates gravity. A man with self-respect radiates desire. This is the immoral truth society hides. Female desire is not activated by perfection, it is activated by sovereignty. And sovereignty looks like this. You say no calmly. You stay silent when silence is stronger. You do not reward disrespect. You remain grounded under pressure. You observe instead of chase. You hold yourself while she tests the edges of your identity. You maintain your rhythm even when hers fluctuates. A woman does not want to dominate a man. She wants to relax in the presence of one she cannot break. This is the paradox that terrifies modern men. Because to become this man, you cannot seek to be liked. You cannot seek to be accepted. You cannot be shaped by her moods. You cannot let fear lead you. You must replace approval with presence. Softness with depth. Neediness with direction. Anxiety with consciousness. Instinct with sovereignty. This is the transformation. This is the axis. This is the masculine core she secretly craves. And now, at the end of everything, the truth becomes unavoidable. She will never admit this. Not in public, not to her friends, not even to herself. But she feels it. She responds to it. Her attraction obeys it. The man she desires is the man who cannot be bought. Not emotionally, not psychologically, not spiritually. A man who is whole. A man who is centered. A man who leads himself. This is the final law of masculine presence. A woman does not fall for what you give her. She falls for what you refuse to give up. Your center, your mind, your boundaries, your identity, your sovereignty. This is the edge she desires. This is the force she respects. This is the polarity that awakens her softness. This is the energy she will never confess. And so we end where all truth begins. A woman wants the man who commands himself. As Machiavelli warned, he who conquers his own nature becomes unshakable. And in the realm of desire, the man who conquers himself becomes the compass of every room he enters, and the one she cannot forget.